duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes on the west side of Portland in the middle of June 2026. What's happening with that market? Well, in this video, we are going to have a little look at my latest market report, and you're going to find out what's happening with 2 to 4 unit properties on the west side of Portland, including South Portland. So, as you know, I do like to distinguish my reports between the west side and including south and the east side, including north. And I just find that the dynamics, the properties themselves, the ages of the properties, everything's kind of different in those two zones. So I like to separate those out. In this report, the west side is always the report that's got a lower number of data points. There's far more properties like this on the east side of Portland. So we have smaller data points and we look at our averages and we try to draw conclusions of what's happening. So let's jump in and take a little look. Now, one thing I've done, just to point out, is a little bit different than normal. I always have 3 columns in my report, but oftentimes I have this month, last month, and maybe 2 months ago. But in this time, I wanted to look back in a little wider perspective so we could have a bigger view of kind of what maybe trajectories have been like over the last, in this case, I guess about 15 months. So we have this month, we have about 10 months ago in August of last year, then we have about 15 months ago in March of last year as well. So let's see what's going on. How many properties do we currently have active on the west side of Portland? We have 18 properties that are active on the west side of Portland right now. That is down, quite a bit, a little more than, I mean, almost half down from when we did this report in August of last year, and then 23 before that. In the last 30 days, we've only had three, whereas before we had eight and then we had 13 actually back in March. Now, there might be some seasonality to March having a bigger number of new transaction or new listings because spring tends to be a time when people think about listing properties. And June is getting towards the middle of the year. But anyway, still kind of a small number in my mind of new listings in the last 30 days. The kind of market seems, I would use the word quiet, I guess, with that. We have an average price we can look at. We have average numbers of units. We can look at average square feet. But when we put all that together, I find the most useful thing to look at is the average price per unit, the average price per square foot, and then how long these properties are taking. So right now, our average price per unit is $406,000 compared to 341 or almost 342 before. That's a pretty big difference, I'd say, and 368 before that. Now, I chuckle and it's a big difference, but we also have to remember that we have small data set here, and so averages can be skewed a lot. And a price per unit is going to pull off the number of units, but is that unit a studio? Is that unit a 3 or 4 bedroom unit? So that's gonna skew those numbers a little bit, which is why we also look at price per square foot because that is less skewed. That's a 311 now compared to 269 and 282 before that. So up a fair amount from 10 months ago and up another fair amount actually from about 15 months ago. But we see that that's not working as well because this number being bigger, days on market, than this one and this one is not a good sign. That's not something we want to see. Of course, we want to list properties. We want them to be on the market for a reasonable amount of time, get offers, and then go pending, because that's how the system works. And we need to see properties moving through the whole pipeline and workflow of how transactions get closed. So speaking of pending, there are two that are pending right now in this category. There were six when we did this before, and zero even before that. So this number does fluctuate kind of wildly, but pending in 46 days. Whereas, gosh, you look at this and you say, wow, the ones that are on the market now have been on the market for 135 days, and the ones that went pending are on the market only for a third of that time at 46 days. So that's kind of interesting. So let's have a look at what's closing, because what's the significance of closing? Well, closing means that what somebody is doing to sell the property is working. They're putting a property out there, they're making an offering, They are saying, we'll sell this property at this price with this quality. And so what closes is the best depiction of what reality is. Now, in this case, we only have one. We only have one actual closing compared to six before and eight before that. So again, the word that kind of comes up to my mind is just simply slow. But the average of one transaction, when we average all of the single transaction, it comes out to $600,000 even. That was a duplex, a little over 2,000 square feet. So price per unit, of course, is 300,000 and price per square foot is 288. Now, this is just one data point, but let's have a little look here and let's say currently, price per square foot being asked on the market is 311 bucks, and what's working is 288 bucks. So no surprise there. A lower price per square foot is going to work better. We could kind of do a similar thing and say $406,000 being asked per unit compared to 300,000 is a big difference. But again, we have to keep in mind the asterisk, which is the small data set that we have over here. And these also close in just 14 days on the market, whereas the current pending ones took 46 days to get pending, and the current active ones are still active after like 4 months. Let's look back at the last couple years here with price per unit just for fun. Again, small data set, but price per unit has not varied too much. $300,000 now, 304,000 basically before that, 293, very, 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 very similar, very close. Price per square foot has also not varied too much. So we have 288 right now, 272 10 months ago, and 272 15 months ago. So we see pretty consistently, even though things are kind of slow at the moment, like what's working is pretty consistent. This is how you get it done on the west side of Portland for duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. So if you have a property that you own and you would like to sell, if you have a property you don't yet own but would like to buy, I would love to chat with you. In the event that you value inch wide and mile deep expertise. I'm not going to chat with you about houses. I'm not going to chat with you about commercial buildings or tenplexes. I'm going to talk to you solely about 2, 3, and 4 unit properties because that is what I do. That's what I built my own portfolio primarily on as well. And I am committed to that very, very, very narrow focus as a real estate agent. So you can call me anytime, text 503-869-7303. You could send me an email, check out the website at oregonplex.com or email jeff@oregonplex.com. I hope to hear from you, and I will see you in the next market report video. Take care.